Hello and welcome to this episode of the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Laura Mignot, and this is part of my 29 Days of Magic series where I interview a Black woman a day for 29 straight days. And today I'm super excited to have Jehmu Greene, who's the founder and CEO of WeDefendTruth, an incredible, much needed nonprofit. I can't wait for you all to hear her story. Take a listen. Hey, Jehmu, how are you?
Hi, Laura. I am good. How are you?
I'm good. Just, interviewing people saying hi. Thank you so much for being part of this. So we'll jump right in. First question. Answers are always unique and amazing. I'm sure that yours will be no different. So, Jehmu, what was your first job?
I was just talking about this the other day. My actual first job, I was 13 years old, and I was an office manager for an interior design firm in the middle of Clarksville in Austin, Texas, which that neighborhood used to be the slave district in Austin, completely gentrified. And I was working at this interior design firm, mostly cleaning up after a huge parrot that would poop
Whoa,
everywhere.
wow. That is pretty incredible.
And I still to this day think that I would have made one heck of a interior designer and try to pretend like I am now, but cleaning up parrot poop, uh, organizing files, working full time in the summer of yeah, my when I was 13 years old.
Also, 13, isn't that kind of illegal?
That I have actually asked questions of my parents about. I was getting, I believe, $3.15 an hour, and I was working all day. And the only thing was, I the checks ended up going to my dad, and I don't think I ever saw a dollar of that money. And it's still clearly I'm still sore about it.
Clearly you are. And justifiably so, because, oh my God, what a job to have and then not get paid, girl.
Well, as the daughter of, at that time, undocumented immigrants, I think everything was going into one pot.
No, it makes sense. I totally get it. I understand all the immigrant stories that you have to live with. I get it. So we go from that job that didn't pay you any money to where we are now. What's that career journey been like?
As an activist, kind of same, the job that didn't pay you much money. But no, seriously, it certainly has not been the most financially successful path, but I started off as a grassroots organizer working in Texas politics here in Austin, and very quickly learned that there were a lot of sexist and racist people in the Democratic Party in Texas. And so I left and did similar work nationally, working for the Democratic National Committee, and somehow, or through a series of different things, ended up moving from grassroots more to in front of the camera media advocacy, and really understanding the shifting media landscape and the intersection of actually connecting with folks, both online and offline, led me to then spend 13 years as an on-air analyst at Fox News, trying to promote progressive values and fight disinformation, which leads me to what I'm doing now, trying to give truth a digital ally online through We Defend Truth.
Wow. That's pretty incredible. There's so many things here. Okay. Gotta ask you, how did that work at Fox News?
It wasn't easy. It was, you know, daily just conflict, trying to be heard and being interrupted, being shouted down, but at the same time, while that wasn't pleasant, like from a performative standpoint, it certainly made me feel good about actually having an impact, making sure that a different idea was actually being discussed, a different perspective, common sense was getting in front of millions of people. and that was to me a really important and impactful role to make sure that folks had a reasonable version of the other side.
Oh my gosh, I can't applaud you enough for doing this. Oh my goodness. So tell me more about We Defend Truth. How is it going in today's very unique climate, shall we say?
Well, there's definitely a straight line from what I was trying to do at Fox News and talking to the movable middle, again, trying to just provide some common sense where we at We Defend Truth are doing the same thing from a content standpoint where we engage with people who are susceptible to disinformation, millions of Americans who are targeted with disinformation, and we engage with them in a way that validates their identity, builds trust, and gets them to interact with our content. And through doing that, we then take them to truthful information that also is presented in a culturally compelling way to them, so that we can start to move them back to reality. I think that, there's a whole industry trying to deal with the unprecedented levels of disinformation that we are seeing, and the fact that when you look at just the social media landscape, it feels like the truth has no outlet at this point anymore. But all of the different ways people are trying to address disinformation, I think what is really missing is this engagement piece, you know, having those conversations with the people who are being very much maliciously targeted with disinformation, and trying to bring them back. And I think a lot of people even will recognize that from just thinking of how their parents have, if they are consuming a certain type of media, are starting to shift over to some real untrue, dangerous ideas.
And yeah, I mean, I think that so many folks are seeing because it's a flood of information, and it's when you're in a flood, you're just trying not to drown. Like, what are some of the kind of tips and tools that you recommend for helping people to sort of combat disinformation, what they're seeing?
Well, I think to start, people have to, really just recognize from a basic media literacy perspective that just because it comes to you from your best friend, from your coworker, you know, crosses your screen in some way, that it's not automatically true. We are so siloed in where we get our information from these days that if you do get something from a friend or from who you think is a trusted source, there's just zero kind of critical thinking to start. Is it true? Not saying that you have to go to one of the websites, factcheck.org or Snopes, and check everything, but I think just starting by asking the question is something that everyone can do. And then there's a deeper layer of research, looking at the source, just taking an extra step, certainly before passing it on, flooding, a broader community, whatever information you want to pass on to the folks that you care about. I would say start with just a healthy dose of, is this true? And how do I know it's true? And is this something I should be sharing? Of course, there are, again, a lot of websites and like deeper research that people can do, that I think is absolutely important. But to deal with the flood, as you said, we need to insert just a basic sense of, we need to pause before assuming everything we receive is true, and certainly before sharing it.
And what's sort of like the ultimate goal? Do you think that we'll ever get back to a universe where we can more effectively combat disinformation, or just sort of now that this is like out the bottle, there'll always be some way, some form of disinformation online?
I think definitely you're completely right about there will always be some form. Those forms will only get better. Clearly, with the advancements with AI, this problem is not going anywhere. And so making sure that people are educated on the tools that they have, as individuals, and then as a part of different networks that they participate in, whether, from a social media standpoint or wherever they are educating themselves, that there is, some level of credibility that that outlet, that individual has established, that we can get at this from training. We can get at this through engaging with the people who are being targeted and using, in a sense, the same tools that the people who are using disinformation use to make stories really credible and interesting and clickable. The truth can also use those same tools. So there has to be some kind of offense that we're doing, um, training, engagement, taking it on head first. Certainly, the government can play a role if it survives what we are seeing take place over these last few weeks. I think there's a whole ecosystem that can come together to address the unprecedented disinformation that isn't going to go anywhere. And, you know, from an individual standpoint, in the middle of this, I'd say that what keeps me going is just not despairing, that knowing that we actually have ways of winning.
Yeah, I was literally just about to ask you this question. I was gonna say, like, you have such a heavy job. And I know it's gotta be very, very difficult. So what do you do for you? What do you do for your self-care?
Well, I had the best gift in many ways through a really challenging health situation when I was diagnosed with late stage breast cancer back in 22. It gave me the gift of protecting my energy and investing in myself. And really, that experience has helped me set boundaries that I didn't set for decades professionally, and move my body in ways on a daily basis that bring me joy. I play tennis. There's no playing tennis too much, so I won't say it that way, but I play tennis a lot. And there is just so much joy from smacking a ball really hard with
It
a
really
racket.
is. It's so good. Like
Yes.
you can think of someone's face being on the ball. I mean, it's so good.
Yes. And, when you get that perfect shot right and all of the time you put into your outfit paying off, the joy is just multiplied on so many fronts on the tennis court. But, I appreciate the gift that I got from cancer to finally help me say no and mean it, and to walk away from things and not think that that was necessarily like giving up, but really to redefine that as choosing myself. The gift kept going by helping me like take my power back from people who were not making my life feel wonderful.
Mm.
uh, and to just smile and wave and know that things will work itself out, that I don't have to be the solution for every problem I encounter, which was definitely how I was living before my diagnosis. And I just try to amplify all of those lessons on a daily basis and design the life that's going to make me the healthiest. And when I'm the healthiest, then I can be the most impactful.
Amen. Because it's so important that again, we just take care of ourselves. And we can't solve everyone's problems. We can't solve the world's problems if we are not healthy. and it's necessary. And also that means to take that step back. And no is a complete sentence.
Yes. Yes. And you'll be stronger for it.
100%. You will 100% just be stronger if you just are able to like, yep, nope, not my ministry, not doing it. We're good.
And that I think for me, like really connecting with the universe's role in kind of my journey has
Definitely.
been super important because like things align the way they are supposed to. Just like when a lesson you don't learn it, it's going to keep coming back. You're going to keep facing with that problem. The universe wants you to learn that lesson, and it also will just deliver what you need when you need it. And that is also another gift I got from cancer.
Truly incredible, an incredible lesson that and that you what you were able to learn from that is amazing. So, got a question for you. Do you have a give and or an ask of the audience?
Well, I attended a memorial for a friend who passed a few weeks ago, Cecile Richards, the former president of Planned Parenthood and the daughter of Governor Ann Richards, and we all got to celebrate her life 2 days ago. And they told us to leave and spend every day looking for a new young leader, supporting a new young leader, doubling down if you were already doing that on finding new young leaders. And that really just connected with my soul because I feel like I've been trying to do that for most of my career. And it felt like there are ways that I can double down. And a part of that is to make that an ask of as many people as possible, whatever role that we're in, looking at the world right now and the challenges we are facing. I get the most amount of hope and optimism from what I think uh, the next generation is going to be able to do.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And I got one last question for you. What's one thing that brings you joy?
Tennis, by far. Tennis. 9.7 years you live longer by playing tennis.
Really? No.
Yes, it's the healthiest sport. Look it up. Tennis adds 9.7 years to your life. There's a mix of cardio and strength and hand-eye coordination, mental acuity, and all of these things. And they tested all the sports. Tennis is by far number one. So I'm happy that the healthiest sport also is the most joyful thing in my life. My dog Toast is going to murder me with his eyes. He also brings me joy. He's at Toast of the Town, ATX.
I love it. Gina, you're just wow. You were actually out on the lines doing it and making it happen. I cannot thank you enough for sharing some of the incredible work that you're doing. Thank you so, so very much. We're gonna have to put all the details in the show notes for folks to connect with you, donate, because you're on the front lines trying to make this world a much better place in the midst of all this chaos. And just thank you for everything that you're doing.
Thank you, Laura. It was wonderful talking to you, and I feel like we are all on the front lines of our life, right?
100%. Oh, this is great. Thank you so much for being part of 29 Days of Magic. You're just a wonderful, wonderful light. Um,
Such a pleasure. So South by Southwest, tacos and
yeah,
tequila.
tacos, tequila, or a fruity beverage. That's not
Yes,
like
yes, yes, yes. Please let me I can look up the schedule and stuff as well, but I'd love to follow up this conversation in person when you're here.
wonderful. Me too. And that is our show.